Thank you very much, François, for that excellent presentation. Can we give him another round of applause? He has actually also done very good because he has saved some time, about 8 minutes, and I think we'll take those 8 minutes to the next speaker. The next speaker, and please take your notes, take your questions, your comments. We'll have an opportunity to ask those questions and comments and whatever you have to the speakers after they've all made the presentations. The next speaker is Amany Asfour. Amany Asfour graduated from the Faculty of Medicine, Cairo University. She joined the private sector when she was still a student, so I believe she has a lot to tell us about the private sector and why she moved out of the university to join the private sector. She also believes in the importance of scientific research and technology for development. And because of that, she was actually recognized and appointed, where is it? Because due to the efforts of Dr. Asfour to promote women in science and technology and promote scientific research and technology in Africa, and for better access to healthcare and building capacity of the African Pharmaceutical Institute. She is elected the chair of the Human Resource Science and Technology Cluster of the African Union. Dr. Asfour is also the chair of the FEMPOM Egypt Federation of Business Women Associates in the Comesa region. Without really further ado, I wish to invite Dr. Asfour. Her talk is going to be empowering the African private sector and scientific research centers to meet the Africans' 2063 development agenda. You're most welcome.
So, very honored to be among you here, and I really would like to thank very much UNESCO and Merck for this important initiative, which we are really needing it in Africa, linking the private sector with the scientific institutes. And actually, this will be my talk about linking scientific research, technology, innovation, and entrepreneurship with Africa 2063 Development Agenda. I am really honored to be here. As you said, I am a professor of pediatrics in the National Research Center of Egypt, but I am also an entrepreneur. I started my private sector company in medical equipment when I was third year medical school. And I am heading a lot of actually organizations which empower women in science, technology, innovation, and to have the real financial independence. Having said that, you know that 2015, this year, is really historical because we're ending the MDGs and starting the SDGs. And all of you know that the MDGs, we had actually standalone goals for health, which is for reduced child mortality, to improve maternal health, combat HIV/AIDS, and malaria. But with the SDGs, we have actually 17 goals, which is really with the pillars of social, economic, and environment, which shows that you can never really separate the social from the economic from the environment, because in order to achieve social protection, access to healthcare, access to quality education, we have to have economic growth. And to have economic growth, we have really to stress on empowering the private sector and linking it with our scientific research center and institutes. Of course, all of us know that ending poverty at all levels and achieve actually food security and improve nutrition, it cannot happen except with empowering our African scientific institutes. And of course, also to ensure healthy lives and promote well-being at all ages, you need to have healthcare structure, infrastructure for healthcare, pharmaceutical companies strengthening. We all know that we have malaria, but we don't manufacture our anti-malaria drugs. We just import it from China and India and other Western countries. We have all the components that could really empower our African products, but we don't really coordinate our efforts. So you see that also with reference to goal 4, which is quality education, it shows that lifelong learning opportunities. So we have really to promote and strengthen our scientific research education, which is about STEM education, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And that's what we are doing as civil society to promote the youth and the young girls for STEM education. So of course, with Goal 5, which is our passion about gender equality and empower women and girls, because if you just leave 50% of our human resources, then we don't have a productive capacity. With reference to Goal 6, it mentions very much about the management of water and sanitation, so it goes about healthcare, and it goes also about science and technology. And even with 7, with about reliable and sustainable modern energy, it's about science and technology. Yeah. So actually, also within reference to Goal 9, inclusive sustainable industrialization and foster innovation. So this is the whole issue about SDGs. It's about quality education, it's about innovation, it's about industrialization, it's about healthy lives. It's all interrelated, and the core, actually, cornerstone to achieve everything is access to scientific research and technology, and empowering our scientific research centers in Africa, and building our human resources. Technology sometimes doesn't help, okay? And also with reference to Goal 13, which is climate change and its impacts, we all know that there are a lot of impacts of climate change on the health. So actually, if we really want to achieve real global partnership with reference to Goal 17, we all here have to work together. International partners, African scientific institutes, private sector, policymakers for Africa 26 Redevelopment Agenda. You all know that 2013 we actually celebrated the 50 years of the establishment of the African Union, which was the Organization for African Unity, which was really focusing on political liberation. 2013, Chairperson Zuma and all African heads of states, they had another vision of Africa for the 50 years coming of Africa 26 Redevelopment Agenda. What is the Africa we want next in the 50 years? We want a powerful Africa, peaceful, prosperous Africa with quality of life for our African people. We want independent Africa on its own agenda, integrated and united Africa, intellectual, which is investing in our African brains, and high level scientifically and competitive, inclusive, which includes all our human resources. Actually, what is the basis of our Africa 26 Redevelopment Agenda? It should be actually driven by our people, our citizens of Africa. It should have a quality of life of our African people. And here I tell you, when I hear my African leaders talking, we say, we want Africa to be free from hunger, free from disease, free from illiteracy, free from poverty. I challenge them. I tell, no. We want Africa not free from hunger, but they are well-nourished. Not free from disease, but healthy. Not free from poverty, but wealthy. Not free from illiteracy, but well-educated. This is the Africa we want, and that is the basis of 26 Redevelopment Agenda in Africa. So what is actually the African Union strategy for Africa, which is about human capital development, innovation, value addition, industrialization, and entrepreneurship. This agenda, it calls for diversification of sources of growth and of Africa's current economic performance. Actually, if we see also that the agenda actually is about investment in education, technical competence, training in science, technology, research, and innovation. We are remaining critical about this. We also have to mobilize and widen the involvement of relevant segments of the population, private sector, civil society, parliamentarians, diaspora, to participate in the science and technology program. We here alone, we cannot do it. We have to have all sectors of society in order to lobby and advocate for our agenda. Africa must harvest the population demographic dividend, which is women and youth, whose energy, creativity, and courage must drive its development agenda. Actually, the strategy is firmly anchored to 6 distinct priority areas that continue to achieve the AU vision. eradication of hunger and achieving food security, prevention and control of diseases, communication, physical and intellectual mobility, protection of our space, live together, build a society, and wealth creation. It's also about how the mission is accelerate Africa's transition to an innovation-led knowledge-based economy. And this will be achieved by improving STI readiness in Africa in terms of infrastructure, professional and technical competence, entrepreneurial capacity, and implementing scientific policies and programs. You see how it links all the time with entrepreneurship and actually about that address societal needs in a holistic and sustainable manner. It also needs a strong political will. So what we are saying here among us as scientists has to be really lobbied and advocated for the heads of states, for the policymakers, because they are the ones who are putting the laws. It also actually revamp the STI infrastructure in African countries, enhance technical and professional competence, take measures to curb brain drain so that the limited means of the continent are not transformed into investment in other continents. And the speaker yesterday who said that let them be there and they just get the remittance, well, actually it's a debate, but we really need the brains of our African scientists. We need to retain them in the continent. And in order to retain them in the continent, we need to supply the enabling environment for them. To provide the enabling environment, build a strong science culture, strengthen the intellectual property and the regulatory systems, encourage collaboration within and between states in the area of innovation and entrepreneurship. So my dear really colleagues, brothers and sisters here, you know that Africa is the richest continent on earth, but yet it is the poorest of them all. Why? Because we do not depend on our scientific research and technology. We don't invest in our African brains. We don't industrialize our raw materials. We don't manufacture our drugs. We don't actually process our food technology. We don't believe in our African capabilities. We don't strengthen our scientific education. We don't promote that science and technology is the engine for economic growth. Every time you see our African leaders saying, when I talk to them and I do lobby and I do, as a chair of Commerce and Business Council, I interact directly with the heads of state. They say, when I say science and technology, they say, but we are hungry. But we are hungry because we don't invest in science and technology. We are poor, but we are poor because we don't invest actually in science and technology. So how can we really enhance the effectiveness of our African products? How can we build the capacity of human resources and develop competitive products? How can we finance our scientific research to be a commercial product? All of you know here, scientists, that whatever we do in the science, in the lab, it is not commercialized. Nobody invests in our research to make it a commercial product. We need to change this. We need to really see how. You see that rich countries versus poor countries with an income of 40 times, they invest 220 times in research. The public-private interface, the private sector is the driver for 65% of the global R&D. So what is actually the importance of scientific research? It's the key of a competitive edge for any product. Competitive edge is the key for export. Export means welfare. All of us, we import. From where? From the countries who already export to other pharmaceutical drugs, which are those who invest in scientific research, which are those who actually link the scientific research with investment. You see here, we have a lot of agriculture, and if you export an acre of rice or one computer, if you export a barrel of oil or mobile phone, technology is the driver for economic growth. So actually, what are the real obstacles? The vision, the plan, the strategy to stimulate research. And we don't have the right economic environment to grow research. There is some legislation obstacles. In university laws, the university staff are tied, we are not tied to, in Egypt, I am a professor in pediatric science and technology, scientific research center. I cannot be part of the private sector. Actually, this has to be changed. You know, in USA, all the scientific research there is linked with the private sector, invest in this research, and then they commercialize the product. And then they buy, and then they export to us. So the private sector is not linked with scientific research institutes. They are not interested, actually, and they don't understand the economic reward in research, do not invest in it. The patency laws. Patency is done mainly for local markets, The cost is beyond our toleration. If we have innovation, we cannot go and patent because it is costly. The government do not support the costs. Economic environment obstacles. Actually, as I mentioned, the involvement of universities stopped the absence of the private sector investors with scientific background, funding of research companies from local banks, the taxation laws. If you go to a bank and tell them, please give me money for scientific research, are they going to give you money? Actually, and even if you have collateral and put your collateral, there is most above the interest rate in Africa is almost above 10%, which is interest in USA, Europe, and Japan is below 5%. So it's impossible. The cash flow pattern of scientific research company, it's a high risk return. If you say I will now make a scientific research company in Africa, we need investment. How much is this the long term? It's a long-term investment. We need to have the mindset that this is a long-term investment, but on the long run, it will be rewarding for us. So local banks actually don't understand and not willing to invest or lend the companies of are. So our solution actually is investment in scientific research and technology, investment in our human resource, especially women and youth. Investment actually, because it's the tractor for economic growth. At the university level, as we said, we need to target to have promotion of the scientific research and technology, and to have a research council linked to actually private sector in each department to encourage and fund the young staff to travel for scientific institutes and transfer knowledge. We need actually, and the ministries of the level of the scientific research level, necessary to have laws actually and allow the use of the existing facility in the labs, in the universities for research, for economic reasons, to integrate and network different universities, all of us. We have to be linked together. We don't have to actually do the research twice or thrice. We have to be linked together and focus on the priority needs of our African continent. Actually, at the level of the government, actually they have to have a vision for science and R&D. They have to work to lower the interest rate, to have tax exemptions for actually companies for research and development. 1%, in the heads of states, we lobbied to have at least 1% of GDP to be invested in scientific research and technology. Till now, 3 or 4 countries only in Africa that's implementing 1% from the GDP on scientific research and technology, including the salaries of our salaries. We need to have more, actually, in this. We have, as I mentioned, to invest in our African human resources with special focus on young women and men. You know, in each year we have actually several million coming into labor market of young women and men. Investment in youth. You see, this is Bill Gates. If nobody invested in the idea of Bill Gates, now there would not be Microsoft. It is mandatory that we, and I am happy in this conference, actually, you are investing already in the youth, and that's why all of you are here. So it is a mandatory to invest in our human resources, including our women of Africa. That's why in our organization we promote STEM education for women, promote women scientists, and really how to see that the real pillars of human development are empowerment, education, entrepreneurship, and employment. To empower our African scientific research, actually, I want to ask you, what is the real power? Because the real power is the potency, the capacity to act and to implement. If Merck here and UNESCO getting us together, and we don't have a concrete, solid action after we go out, then we are not powerless. We are powerless. The real power is really to make it happen. And I really, when I'm talking about empowering our African research centers, empowering our African private sector, I have this theory which I call it the triad of empowerment. This is based on 3 pillars. The first P is the people. We are the people of Africa. How to invest in our human resource, women and youth. How to have good education, quality education. How to have a scientific method of our children. How they are really helped into the education, quality education. How to put capacity building and training center and train our healthcare professionals. It is about us. We are driving the agenda. So actually, there is a partnership between government, civil society, scientific research, how to empower our people actually through putting the right quality education and training our healthcare professionals. The second P is the policy and the procedure. What policy in place in order to empower our scientific research center, to empower our African private sector to make our pharmaceutical drugs? This is the role of the government. What are they setting with scientific research center? How much allocation of budget we are putting for the investment in science and technology? The third pillar is the product, actually. What product do we have in Africa in order to offer? Actually, we have to have a competitive and standard product. If we are waiting for mosquito nets to be distributed for us in order to have no mosquitoes, this is not the real thing. It is about eradication of the female anopheles mosquitoes. It's about manufacturing the drugs of anti-malaria in Africa. It is our role. How do we have a good product, good pharmaceutical product that we need to invest in? Actually, to achieve this, it's about awareness and popularization of how important scientific research is and technology and innovation. It's about our quality education. It's about capacity building of our human resources and healthcare professionals. It's about the training. It's about young entrepreneurship promotion and building the entrepreneurial culture to link the science and technology with entrepreneurship. It's about access to financial resources. Time we have resources for our science and technology innovation. Access to technology and information should be available for every single person, even the youth and the children. It's about technical assistance and support services. That's how actually our international partners can come in to see how we assist our scientific research. It's about advocacy. We have to lobby and advocate with parliamentarians, with heads of state, in order to have an enabling environment. It's about project development. What can we do? So building the culture of the science and technology innovation, I call it the triple S. First, the society, starting with the family. Every time we have to really empower our children to research, to see what's happening in the world. It's not about reception. It's not about actually the school, which is you have to read this by heart and you don't have to do any research. No, we have to think and to promote the STEM education in our children. It's about the state, how the state is promoting our scientific and innovation and what plan they are putting to make this happen. So I really summarized for you the pillars for our African enterprise development, economic transformation through science and technology. I call them the 10 E's. Indigenous capacity and human resources strengthening, internal policies and reforms, increase productivity and upgrading the value chain. We need to upgrade our people in the value chain. Innovation, scientific research and technology, information and communication, infrastructure and energy. If we want to have pharmaceutical drugs, we want to have actually infrastructure. If we want to have healthcare, we have to have infrastructure. Investment, finance, and access to credit. Integration regionally. We all have to come together and integrate it. Industrialization. We have to focus on industrialization. We have to have international and regional markets for our African products. It's about integrity and accountability. It's about institutional capacity, how we really strengthen our institutional capacity, intergenerational dialogue and transfer of knowledge to our youth. It's about inclusion and diversity of all human resources. So this is the role of the stakeholders, government, the policymakers, and scientific research, civil society, and the private sector. You know that African Union initiative, they have actually an initiative for the pharmaceutical manufacturing plan for Africa, which actually they lobbied the heads of state to have it. But to do this, actually, we have to really see how we strengthen our scientific research and link it with entrepreneurship. Now, with reference actually to drug industry, why pharmaceutical manufacturing is important? Actually, it is the only imperative for health and social development purposes. Is the access to quality, effective, and affordable essential medicine. It's about medicines are the strategic security and reserves. It's about economic development. It's about job creation, technology transfer, market access. It's about reduced imports in favor of local production. You know that Africa actually carries 25% of the world disease burden, but consumes less than 1% of the global health expenditure. Over 70% of the world HIV/AIDS cases and 90% of the deaths due to malaria currently occurring in Africa. Also, the continent bears 50% of the global deaths under 5 children, mainly due to neonatal causes, as well as pneumonia, diarrhea, measles, HIV/AIDS. All are preventable diseases, actually. So we are really about trade statistics. You know, in East Africa, The market share of the local produced pharmaceutical drugs, Kenya 30%, estimated 558 US million market. Tanzania 31% with estimated 350 million USD. Uganda 5%, 250. Actually, the region have 65 pharmaceutical companies, 40 in Kenya. In the North Africa and South Africa, they need their local needs. In Egypt, there are 118 pharmaceutical drug industries with job opportunities 83%. But yet, it's really about packaging. It's not about the innovation, our real package. So the future of pharmaceutical industry is about improving the healthcare system, driving a rising demand for drugs for chronic diseases, which is expected to reach 30 billion in sales by 2016, potentially 45 billion by 2020. So empowering the African private sector, we have to have policy harmonization, as we said, access to finance, preferential procurement policies for our local manufacturers, combating illicit trade, and we have to empower our African profit. This is a campaign that we launched in Egypt last time during our African private sector. It's Made in Africa campaign, that we want to promote our African products with our African pharmaceutical drugs. So it was done with the Africa Commission for African Union, and I'm inviting you all actually for our next Congress, the 4th African Congress for Scientific Research, Technology, Innovation, Entrepreneurship, with the celebration of the Africa Industrialization Day. The theme is Scientific Research and Technology for Africa 2063 Development Agenda and SDGs, with the main pillars as science and technology for industrialization and support of SMEs. Next November, 22-25 November, it's about what we are doing now, linking science, technology, innovation, entrepreneurship with the presence of the policymakers, with the presence of the parliamentarians, and all the regional organizations. As you see, the theme is Scientific Research, Technology, Innovation, Enterprise for Africa 2030 Development Agenda, post-2015, and that's science and technology is the base for industrialization and support of SME. So why actually we do our products to have, and we do our economic empowerment of African products to have our financial independence. Africa has all the resources of the world, but we need to own our manufacturing drugs, we need to own our food. We cannot export our raw materials and import it after value addition. It has to happen in Africa. We all have to work for it in order to achieve real financial independence for our African countries, to achieve capacity building for our African scientists, to have a future for our youth scientists in the continent. We have all the components to make Africa stronger on the world. So actually, this is actually very important, being all of us together as stakeholders to promote our African production, to promote our private sector entrepreneurship with the Scientific Research Institute, and to have real financial independence. Why? To have the power of choice and voice. Africa should have its voice and choice in partnership with our international partners, but we have to do it. It's our role to do it together, and that's why I thank Merck and UNESCO for bringing us together to see how we network, how we share, and how we make it together. Thank you very much.